What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I'm your boy NarikChase, and in this video we're going to be reviewing 2025 Superman. Now, this movie was directed by James Gunn, and I have to say I do like James Gunn. A lot of his projects I've really enjoyed. I did like Super 8, I did like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was looking forward to him doing a Superman adaptation. Although I am one of the most hardcore DCU fans out there. Although I will admit, a lot of the sequels and the later movies that came out, the later films, they all suck for the most part. But all of the earlier films, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Director's Cut, Justice League, Zack Snyder's version, great films. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, great films. But having said that, this film is a different interpretation of Superman. He's not been in the game long. This whole world that James Gunn has brought us into is already thriving. And I kind of like scenarios like that where we are being put into this world where things are already active. It isn't like, in the rest of these Superman films, he's like the first one. You don't really see anybody else. And even the Man of Steel, he kind of starts off as kind of the first person that we see. Although Batman's been in the game, Wonder Woman's kind of been in the game as well. But in this film, they're more active. You have him teaming up with the Justice League gang, which is Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl. He's trading philosophical blows with Lex Luthor, who's just complete douchebag in this film. And I, for the most part, thought this was an entertaining film, but that's not to say it didn't have its problems, because it got a lot of problems. But let's go on to the good things. I did like the film for the most part. I did like David Corenswet, whatever his name is. I thought he did a good Superman. I wouldn't say he has the gravitas as Christopher Reeve, and he definitely don't have the presence of Henry Cavill. But I think he's a decent Superman. I think there's a lot more room for him to grow into the role. But for the first part, this first film, I think he does a decent enough job. I did like Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I thought she was really good. I thought they had a bit of chemistry for the time that they did have on screen. I do feel that the film doesn't get too much into their art because there's just a lot of stuff happening in this film. I did like Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I thought he was a complete douchebag. But one of the things that I did appreciate about his performance is the way the character's written. He's more meticulous and methodical. He's shown to be more of a genius where he's planning things out, even with these interesting fight sequences, and he's able to kind of choreograph things in his head, knowing how Superman will attack, and those like certain things. And he's just a master manipulator, and that's what I want to see from a Lex Luthor. The other performances are actually pretty good. I did like Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. I did like that one guy that played Mr. Terrific. And I have to say, if there was any character that stood out the most to me was Mr. Terrific. Never cared about him in the comics, never cared about him in the animated shows, never cared about him in any capacity, but this movie definitely got me interested in the character. He had a lot of screen time, he did, and I like that, I did appreciate that. Um, there are some pretty good action sequences in this film. We get to see Superman do some pretty cool stuff, fight this giant monster, and the later fights as well. This film, for the most part, I do like the cinematography of it and the way it's shot. There are some pretty cool flight sequences, which was one of the highlights of the Man of Steel film. Just some of the really cool flight sequences, and I love those types of sequences in this film. You get some pretty cool ones in this as well. But ultimately, it's an entertaining film. Now, that's not to say it doesn't have its share of flaws. There's a lot going on in this movie to his detriment. I do like James Gunn. I felt like there was too much comedy. I felt like things should be a bit more serious. There were some that landed, a lot that didn't. Superdog, cute, annoying as hell. Really didn't need to have Superdog in this film. There are some pretty cool action sequences. A lot of it is kind of drowned out uh, uh, because of how bloated the film is. Like there's this one sequence. In fact, there are a couple of sequences in this film. I like. Why is this even a part of the movie? Like, and I just say it. There's this one sequence where Superman is in this river, or a river of atoms, or something, whatever you want to call it. That whole scene I thought was stupid. I was like, why in the hell are we having him in this whole scene? Could have been cut from the freaking movie and expanded upon some that would deal with character growth or character relationships or a better action scene. I really didn't like the way they wrote that whole scene there. Like I said, there's about two or three more scenes like that. There are too many characters, and sometimes it feels like it's not even a Superman movie because there's so many different characters, and it felt like yeah, they could have been where they were. Like they could have been pulled back some to give a bit more to Superman's character, Lois Lane's character, their relationship, Lex Luthor, who I think has a decent amount of good amount of screen time. But I felt like Superman took a backseat to a lot of these other characters. I didn't like the Super Dog character in this film. I love the animated show; it was really cool, but this movie just really, really annoying. Also, one of the biggest problems, and I touched on this earlier, is that the Superman character doesn't feel like he has presence. Like he doesn't have this commanding presence about him that you see Christopher Reeve has it. You see Henry Cavill has it. I like seeing him like he walks into the room and exudes confidence, strength, determination, just this commanding presence wherever he shows up. People just look at him. I don't feel like I've seen that in this guy. I don't think there was a one scene where he just felt like, especially with the dog. The dog undermines it. Like I would have liked to see one point where he's like, "Super dog, stop!" and the dog stops. There's never in this film. That's one thing I hated, especially the whole undermining with the dog. Now there are some things that they did expound upon, like the Fortress of Solitude, like that sequence. I thought that was pretty cool, seeing how the robots and the whole fortress works, and like I thought that was actually pretty cool as well. But ultimately, this is one of those movies I did enjoy it. There's a lot of problems with it, but I have to ask myself. I said I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel, and I'm like, so we didn't get a Man of Steel 2 for this, and and I like look, I'm a Superman fan like the next guy. I know people don't like the Man of Steel in the Snyderverse because of how dark it was. I get it, but Superman is supposed to exude hope, and honestly, I'm trying to figure out, you know, is that just this hallmark of Superman? Yes, we see it from Christopher Reeve, but I'm like, well, they did that in the Snyderverse too. They just didn't do it the way you wanted it. So I do feel like this actually, if they were going to make this a Superman movie, this literally could have just been a sequel to Man of Steel. But there's a whole argument for another video. But ultimately, I did like this film. I think there was a lot that they could have did better. Have more moments where Superman is actually forefront. A lot of the fights, I will say this. Look, he did some cool stuff in some of the fights. They suck. A lot of the fights suck. There is this one pretty big badass battle towards the end of the film. Really, really liked it. And I'm like, this is Superman. I want to see him fighting. That's one of the reasons I love Man of Steel is the action, and it shows you what superpowered beings can do. I don't want to see no superhero movies where we got Superman, he's not fighting somebody that can kick his butt. I don't want to see this. But anyways, this film gave me one good fight with that. I will give it that. But really, all the other fights really aren't memorable. I don't like that. I hate that. I'm sorry, Man of Steel, Snyderverse, they taking it up here with the Superman fights. And that's what I want to see from now on. But ultimately, I thought this was an okay film. I think it has room to grow, and if this is going to be the first step to this whole DC universe that they're going with, I think they did a decent job. Could have been better. If we're going to go with Superman, make him a much more commanding presence than what we got in this film. We don't need other characters undermining him. We don't need no stupid dog biting at his heels and stuff, and he can't keep this dog under control. I did like the performances. I thought David Corenswet did a good job as Superman. I did like his relationship with Brosnahan. I thought she was a good Lois Lane. Again, Nicholas Hoult completely killed it as Lex Luthor. This is the version of Lex Luthor that I've always wanted to see. Though I will say there are some sequences where he comes off a bit more animated and goes into more like he's psychotic, which he is. But I want to he had reserved moments, and that's when he's at his best. But having said that, I think it was a decent movie. Could have been better. I definitely give Superman 3 out of 5. All right, then, guys, in the comment section below, let me know what are your thoughts on Superman. Did you like this film? Did you not like this film? Who was your favorite interpreted character? Superman, Lois Lane, Lex, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl. She really didn't do much in this movie. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from her, but hey, it is what it is. But anyways, in the comment section below, let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll definitely catch you guys later.